Up Live, your home for life hacks, life lessons, building a better you, and all things positive. My name is Rob Robertson. I'm your host from My Warrior Ethos Life Coaching, where the journey of 1,000 steps begins beneath one's feet. Hope everybody's had a good month since I saw you last month. Mine was so-so, unfortunately. As it turns out, I ended up coming down with a sinus infection that required antibiotics. So if I get a little froggy during the broadcast tonight, please forgive me, and I'll try not to cough too awful much. That fortunately is beginning to be less and less with each passing day. However, I have been still having a little bit of a battle with that. Um, uh, Fortunately, though, I caught a break, and it wasn't COVID, which I was glad of that because I had that last year and during Thanksgiving week. Matter of fact, my entire office at Barnett's ended up coming down with it for the most part, and I can tell you it was a pretty stressful time for all of us trying to keep the business open. So fortunately, I didn't have to deal with COVID again this year, or at least so far I haven't, and hopefully, knock on wood, I won't have to. So. Let's get right into it. I got several things on my mind this month that we're going to go over. It was here on Saturday. I hope some of you got to stop by on Saturday and hit the veteran-owned business spotlight that was going on. There were several great businesses that were here, set up selling their wares and explaining what they do and talking about being a veteran-owned business. And of course, mine was here. My Warrior Ethos. We were set up here doing health scans, making friends. The guy who makes the puppets, his company was here on Saturday. Ruby's Divine Chocolates was here. Let's see who else. Daniel Jackson, spirit medium, a good friend of mine, was also here. Him and his wife set up. So there was a lot of different things that you could attend to. Um, See what veteran-owned businesses are doing, what's offered out there, and also, kind of find out what you could get into and see what some of our veterans are doing to be positive in their community. But one of the things that came up, I had a conversation with somebody that came in to get a health scan, and we were talking about exercise in particular. And one of the things I want to be clear about whenever I do life coaching with people is that I don't tell people when I'm doing life coaching that you should take this job or follow that career path or marry this girl or live in this city. That's not what I do. What I do basically is I'm an accountability coach, is what I like to say it is. And what we do is determine what you think your path should be, and then my job is to hold you to that path as we go forward. And so we had this discussion at length, and I think it was an important discussion that you need to understand that not everybody's path can work for everybody else. In other words, what may work for me might not work for you, or what works for this person may not work for you, or what works for that person may not work for that person. I think you get the point on that. It's a matter of finding what makes you happy and what works well for you. Because if everything worked for everybody all the time, we would all be Warren Buffett, or we would all be Elon Musk, or we would all be Bill Gates. We would all follow that same path and all end up at the same destination. But we know that's just not realistic because we all have different wants. We all have different things that are important to us. We all have different things that we look at and say, well, uh, that's what I want to be doing, or that's what I get enjoyment from. So everybody trying to follow uh, that same road just doesn't work. And so, like, whenever you come to one of the events that I do as a life coach or anything, if you'll notice on my table, I never have any self-help books out. I never say, if you read this book, everything will work out just fine. Uh, that's just not true. You might be able to duplicate certain results on certain things by following a certain book. I mean, some things, as far as certain things are going to be universal, that if, I'm a firm believer that hard work pays off eventually. Hard work works. It might take a little while, but it does come through. I'm a firm believer in the old sayings, early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Those kinds of things I think, are universal. I think education is important. The more education you can get, the better. Now, I don't necessarily tie that into just going out and getting a college degree, because I don't think that's the answer for everybody. I mean, I got a couple of them, but I'll tell you that I don't count that as my top accomplishment in life. Um, so again, coming back to the point is just that not everybody's path is going to be the same. So, for example, me and this person I was talking to, we were talking about going to the gym, and how that worked out. And he was saying that he had went to the gym, and kind of had mixed results, hadn't quite worked out as well, and he wanted to lose weight, and he ended up taking this job, and the job actually ended up being more of an effect on his losing weight, because of the activity that was involved. He was in this constant uh, uh, activity, although it was kind of a slow activity. At the same time, it was constant, and because of that, he'd lost like 27 pounds doing this. Now, for me, um, I go to the gym 3 to 5 days a week, depending on what my schedule's like. And so back in May, I actually got up to 282 pounds. I mean, I was a fat boy. And not that I'm, still not a fat boy. I still got a lot of work to do. That said, what I found out worked for me was that I had to make a dietary change. So I looked at my diet overall. I downloaded an app called Chronometer onto my phone. I started tracking my calories, and what I found was that I was what I wasn't eating a lot, but what I was eating was tremendously packed with calories. I mean, I was pounding down 4,000 calories a day, 3,000 calories a day, 3,500 calories a day, whatever. But a lot of that was because of the food I was eating. It just wasn't very healthy for me. And so I made a big change there in my diet. And lo and behold, next thing I knew, I cut my calorie intake all the way down from 3,000 and 4,000 down to between 1,500 and 2,000. And since then, I've lost I've lost 42 pounds, just a little over 42 pounds. I'm sub 240 right now. So, um, again, but that's a path that works for me every day. This individual tried that, and it didn't necessarily work for him. Um, and then we were talking about his significant other, and that she was trying to do some of the things that he was doing, and that, she wasn't seeing any benefit from doing that and losing weight. And so you come back to that same conversation again, is that just because it works for this person doesn't mean it's going to work for that person. And so sometimes it is a level of experimentation to determine what's going to work for you, particularly when it does come to exercise and diet. There are some universal truths on that. We're going to talk about that towards the end of the show. I'm going to have a new segment that I'm going to start tonight that's going to be towards the end of every show. Now, I watch Bill O'Reilly quite often. He calls his Smart Life. I'm going to call mine Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. And hopefully there'll be some tips and stuff you can look into with dietary issues that might help you going forward. Because my theory, if you tune in for last month's show, my thinking on this: if you feel like crap, you're going to perform like crap. And so, trying to get away from that is super, super important. But it doesn't matter what you choose to do. Here's the kick on this. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's going to school, whether it's your job, whether it's you doing your workouts, whether it's you're working on your diet. All those things have one thing that has to happen in order for it to be successful. And what that is a simple question. Are you all in all the time? So what does that mean, Rob? Well, I can tell you all in all the time comes from the Navy SEAL Warrior Ethos Code. And I can tell you that when I was on a submarine, that's where I served at, for those of you who remember from the last show also, is that you have to be all in all the time when you're on board ship. And I think that's true whether you're on a surface ship, whether you're on a submarine, no matter which branch of the military you serve, police officers, firefighters, nurses, doctors, EMTs, paramedics, anybody that does anything like that kind of requires you to be a bit of a first responder. You have to be all in all the time. But the question comes back to, again, about school, work, your home life, your diet, your workouts. Are you all in all the time? Are you giving 110% all the time? It's one of those things that you have to have to be like that. And being on a submarine where I learned that was because, when you're at depth, when you're submerged, uh, at any one time, you're only 4 inches away from water, and a lot of water. If it gets inside that hole, I mean, it's gonna flood pretty quick. And so anyway, the biggest question is, like I said, are you all in all the time? And you've got all these things that are going on when you're submerged, with your maintenance drills. You're on watch. You're taking care of the boat. Doing cleaning, training. 24/7. It seems like it's all you did, but you had to be all in all the time, because all it took was one person not doing that. Maybe not doing their job to the best of their ability, or only doing it part way, and the next thing you know, you got a catastrophe, and the boat's on its way to the bottom of the ocean, which it's not going to hit the bottom before it crushes. So you end up with everybody dead. And I know that's kind of a bleak thing to be talking about during what's supposed to be a positive discussion. Uh, but again, it comes back to that. Are you all in all the time? So when you go to the gym, are you focused on being at the gym? One of the things I see uh, whenever I go to the gym, and it just drives me insane whenever I'm in there, is I see people in there and they're spending more time playing with their phones than they are working on their workout. I was talking to one of the the attendants over there. He's in there on the weekends. He works for another company because he does works at the gym I go to, Planet Fitness, as a part-time gig. And we were talking about it, and I said, it's funny. I said, I remember going to the gym when I was a kid, and I'd come out of there looking like 40 miles of bad road. And I do that now, that I'm in my 50s. I come out of there usually looking like 40 miles of bad road. My shirt's soaked, my hair's all out of place. What hair I got. And I, look pretty rough, and all in all, I'm pretty wore out. And so anyway, I'm looking at this, and um, I'm looking at this, and I look around the room at everybody else that's in there with me, and they're all looking at their phones, and they'll stop by a machine and chat with somebody else for 10, 15 minutes, and they just don't seem to have any interest in what they're doing for the most part. I sometimes kind of wonder, what are you doing in here? Because you don't seem to be interested in paying attention to what's going on. And so anyway, I'm trying to get to the comments here, guys, because I'm not sure that I'm not seeing them. Ah, there we go. I think they're kind of hidden back here in the back. Let me see if I can turn this up. Okay, it looks like I got it turned up full blast there, guys. So I'm not sure, sure what's going on. But anyway, I'm watching all these people working out around the room. Let me see if maybe I'm turning it the wrong direction. Maybe that's possible. Is that any better? Anybody help me out here? So anyway, looking around the room, and looking around the gym there, and got these people. They don't look like they're doing very much of anything except playing with their phones. It's kind of like, what are you doing here? If you're not interested in working out, why are you showing up? It's kind of like the same thing with your diet. If you don't monitor it all the time, it can get out of hand. That's kind of what happened to me back whenever I was got up to 282 pounds, is because I just lost track of what I was doing. I didn't realize, the food that I was eating uh, was actually pounding a lot of weight onto me. And so, am I live? Okay, sorry, a few technical difficulties there. I still haven't quite got used to the setup, but anyway, um, so I kind of let my diet get away from me, and obviously I ended up putting on a whole bunch of weight, and it was starting to cause me some serious health issues. So again, it comes back to, no matter what you're doing, you got to be all in all the time. That's what truly successful people do. If you look at the Elon Musks, if you look at the the Bill Gates. If you look at Tony Robbins, a lot of these guys. I mean, they don't just that's not just their job. They do that as their passion, and that's the important part right there. Is to try to figure out what your passion is, what's your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? So getting out there and trying to figure that out can be tough. And you may have to try several different things in order to get that to come to fruition. Uh, some people get into painting, some people get into several different things. Computers, whatever the case may be that you might want to do. Maybe being a police officer, being involved in law enforcement, is what gets you excited, and that's the career path you need to take. Again, you can't narrow it down you don't want to pigeonhole yourself, but at the same time, you got to figure out what's that thing that really drives you to get out of bed every morning. What's your why? You'll hear me talk about it a lot. And one of these days, I'm just going to do a show on that, just trying to figure out what your why is. We'll do some exercises and stuff, and maybe try to figure that out for yourself. But again, it's one of those type of things that it's all about mentality. What's your mentality? How are you showing up every day? Are you showing up to put in that 110%? You got a choice on what you want to do when it comes to that mentality. It all starts out right between your ears, right? Um, you know, you can choose to be positive, you can choose to be negative, but it all comes down to being a choice. And like Bruce Lee says, you're the master of your mentality. Choose positivity. Um, and it can be tough, especially right now. Things are just crazy out there. We had the shooting up in Whetstone last night. That's affecting a lot of people as you look across social media. We just got out of we're not even really out of it yet, the political season. And to be perfectly honest, as soon as January starts up, that's when everybody will start, pretty much so declaring for the presidency. So you're going to get 2 more years of just, nonstop steady politics. I remember when I was a kid, or at least it seemed like when I was a kid, usually the only time you had to put up with it was from about January of the election year until November, and now it's turned into 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, at least for 2 solid years leading up to each and every election. We get a little bit of a break on the midterms, it seems, for maybe a year or so, but other than that, it seems like it's just gotten to be, um, constant. But, you've got all those other stressors that you have to deal with as well. You got social media can be a pain in the rear. You got bills to pay. Your kids are hanging off of you. They got things that they want to do and things that they're interested in that you're trying to keep up with. And of course, right now we're getting ready to head headlong into the holidays. I mean, next week is Thanksgiving, and that kicks off the holiday season for basically the next 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks anyway. And so you're going to have a lot of stressors coming up on you, for the next 6 weeks, like I said. And it's with what's going on with politics and everything going on, and trying to get packages bought, presents bought for everybody, and get them underneath the tree, and get the presents out, and get the tree up, and your decorations up, and family coming in, and it just goes on and on and on. So yeah, trying to be positive right now can be a little bit tough. And how do we beat those stressors? Well, number one, just stay positive. Focus on the positive. What about this time of year maybe excites you? Maybe that's how you get positive right there. Get yourself a relief valve, whether that's going to the gym or plugging into your music or picking a night to play games, or just go out and have a family night out and do something completely different, where you go to dinner or go to a movie, or just anything that breaks that chain of monotony that can lead to the negativism that creeps into your mind. Pick up and read a book. Isolate somewhere for an hour or two. Delve into a good book. Find a movie on TV. Just anything. For some people, it's even cleaning. I mean, I know people that tell me, hey, their best therapy is getting out there and cleaning things and taking care of stuff. Um, but yeah, you just got to find ways to beat those stressors and make sure uh, we, we're taking care of business and taking care of ourselves. Because if you don't take care of life, life will take care of you. And um, sometimes we can't change what we face, but we certainly can change how we face up to it. That's definitely true. And then there you go. Isabel just chimed in and said, yes, cleaning yard and house. It's just something to get you away from, kind of get you in a mindless sense, I guess would be the best way to put it. So that way you're not focused on the negative. Um, I know for me that works as well. Sometimes I'll just, my wife says I'm crazy because I'll just start mopping floors or something like that. Just something turn on music and that way I kind of disengage from everything for a little bit. But I'm still being positive and I'm still being productive by doing that. It's not like I'm going in a room and just turning off all the lights and going to sleep. That can to me sometimes can lead to making things worse. Still finding ways to be positive and be productive. How can I still take steps forward? How can I be constantly ever forward? That's important, I think, for us. The human body was designed to work. It wasn't designed to be in a static state. It was designed to be in a dynamic state. So if you're not doing those things to kind of keep yourself moving forward, it can definitely have some negative effects on you. So thanks, Isabel. Thanks for throwing that out there. That's really appreciated that you would chime in with that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so you had some things go on this last week. Obviously, Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a celebration, or actually I think more of an honoring of our military veterans. Veterans Day ties back into World War One, because World War One ended on November 11th, on the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th hour, as they say. And so we do take a minute to recognize our people that have served in the military, our veterans on that day. And I was fortunate. I got to be in the parade here in Sierra Vista this year. Had a lot of fun with that. Was out with the guys I work with at Barnett's. We put a float. We took one of the rollback flatbeds, put some flags on it, hopped up there, and got out there and waved at the crowds, and had a good time talking to some people about Veterans Day. It's bear with me here. I'm gonna check my notes here real quick. It's still to this day, I'm pretty amazed about people who volunteer for the military, and of course I was obviously one of them. But you volunteer to go halfway around the world sometimes to fight for liberty and freedom, and kind of keep things from being on American shores, so to speak. But it's quite a bit of sacrifice because you're away from your family, you're away from everything and I think whenever you talk to the average military person, whenever you ask them, why did you join? And I think the first canned answer is going to be to get some job skills or maybe to pay for college. But I think it goes way, way deeper than that. And I think at the the most basic part of it, one thing, there's certainly a bit of patriotism involved. I think that's an important part of it. Um, but I think one other thing that gets lost in all this is just the sense of adventure of being in the military. Uh, and a chance, most people, whenever they sign up and enlist, are probably between 18 and 25, I think. And it's that sense of adventure and that sense to go out and try and test your newfound adulthood, someplace without your parents around, without your family around, without everybody you've known around, to see if you really can cut it. And I think for some of us, it's a kind of a rite of passage joining the military, to get out there and see just what we're capable of and just what we can do. And so anyway, that's my bit um, on being a veteran. I will say this much though, about being a veteran. If you want to see what the cost or the price of freedom is, at any time, please feel free to stop by your local VA hospital or your local vet center or local CBOC, your local veterans cemetery. You'll see it played out right in front of your eyes. Right there is what the cost of freedom is. So we have to be ever vigilant on that. Okay, so one other thing I'm going to touch base on. I don't want to get real political about this. Is the voting season. I know that we just got out of a pretty contentious election all the way around. Some people are happy, some people are sad. That's just the way it works out in politics. But the one thing I do want to point out to everybody out there is please get out and vote. We served to protect the rights and freedoms that we all enjoy every day. And one of those rights and freedoms is the ability to vote. And I think it's important to get out and vote. It's your way of speaking your mind every couple of years on how you feel the situation is in the country. And so it's not just about getting out there and voting, in my opinion. You also need to know who the people are and what the issues are. And so, and I know it can be time consuming trying to keep up with all this stuff. Believe me, I know. I work a full time job. I got two small businesses that I help run on the side. I got school that I'm working on, my master's degree. I'll be finishing up in how many days we got left now? Let's see, today is the 15th, so I got 75 days left, not that I'm counting. But anyway, you got all these things that are going on, and trying to keep up with what the issues are and what's going on. And I'll be the first one to tell you that yeah, you're right. It's time consuming trying to keep up with all those things. I get it. Totally understand where you're coming from on that point. We do have a responsibility to do that. And then once you kind of understand the issues and once you understand the people are, then it's to vote your conscience. So I'm not going to tell you to vote for one party or another. I'm not going to tell you to vote for this person or that person. I'm just going to say simply that it's important to get out there and vote and exercise that freedom, because once we lose it, it's probably gone forever. So please take the time to look into that and spend a little bit of time on it. Okay, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Let's talk about this. So the information I'm going to share with you tonight comes to you from, I want to give the correct people their proper due. It's called the DASH standard. The DASH diet stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. And although it may be on, you're looking at that from a standpoint of taking care of, your hypertension, there's a lot of good thoughts in here in terms of just diet in general. And this is supported by the American Heart Association, the Mayo Clinic, and the U.S. News and World Reports. And the information here is some of the best foods and dieting tips in order to protect your heart for the long term. The diet was originally intended for lowering blood pressure, but it also is recommended for preventing osteoporosis, cancer, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. So let's talk about some of the things in here. Now, it says there are no specific rules. And you can adapt your diet over time. So I know it's tough, to change your diet. It took me a little bit to kind of figure out what worked for me back in May. Probably took me about a month to kind of put it together to figure out what was making me feel better. And of course, what I got into a lot of was just low fat, no sugar, cut out probably 95% of my sugar. I still, kind of wander off the reservation on that every once in a while, but still, low fat, no sugar, just trying to find healthier ways of eating. And so anyway, here it says, per the American Heart Association, focus on fruits and vegetables. What you want to do is try to stay away from the processed meats and the refined sugars. Those things are really bad for you. The processed meats, that stuff will just go straight to your gut. Sugar's not good for you all the way around. I got to be honest with you. I didn't realize how toxic sugar was until I cut it out. And I noticed two things relatively. One took a little bit longer than the other. But two things I noticed from eliminating as much sugar out of my diet as I did was that number one was that my energy levels went up. I had no idea how toxic sugar was. I mean, that stuff's just bad for you all the way around. And I was one of those guys that, I probably had 3 or 4 sodas a week without even trying. And, I cut those things out. I had one the other day while I was watching a movie. I probably have about one a week just to kind of feed my sweet tooth a little bit. Because I'm not telling you to eliminate all the bad stuff. There is value in comfort foods from time to time. But you definitely need to cut down on those sugars. They're not good for you. The other thing I noticed in cutting out the sugars out of my diet was that I noticed the change in the way my overall food tasted. So, like take a salad for example, it really changed. I mean, I could taste everything in that salad now. I mean, it's just like a regular smorgasbord of tastes, and I think my taste buds were basically being overrun by. Not sure what that was about. I didn't notice the lights coming up in here, but I got a flash there on the screen. But anyway, I didn't notice how much the sugar was overloading my taste buds. Uh, Choose whole grains for their filling fiber: brown and wild rice, oats, corn, including popcorn. You can have popcorn. Uh, Again, limit processed and floury products like cakes, muffins, and white bread. It's not good for you. All that stuff's just going to go straight to your gut. Protein. Need to increase your protein. That was one thing I noticed this weekend when I was doing. I noticed a couple of things when I was doing the health scans with everybody this weekend, and I am going to have an event. Just so everybody knows, November 26th. If you're interested in getting a health scan, go to My Warrior Ethos and look for that event. I'll be at the Dragon's Keep Inn Store and More, the bed and breakfast that I also own, doing health scans out there from 10 till 3 that day. Saturday, November 26th. So if you want to get a health scan, let me know or come on by, and we'll get you in there and get that done for you. But a couple of things I noticed from the health scans: proteins, for those of us that are on the wrong side of 50, and probiotics were big again for those of us on the wrong side of 50. But for proteins, you're looking at your skinless fish and your poultry. Try to steer away from the red meat. Baked, broiled, or steamed is the best options other than barbecued or fried. And I kind of tripped up this last weekend with Gunny. Gunny was here on Saturday for the veteran-owned business spotlight, Gunny's Barbecue, and of course I had to hit some of that, So again, that was kind of a mistake. But like I said, you can wander off the reservation every once in a while. Just don't make a habit of it. Low-fat dairy over full-fat dairy. Snack on nuts and legumes. Legumes are beans, for those of you that don't know. Beans and peas. Can't remember the last time I opened up a can of peas to snack on them, though. But I do like the wasabi peas. I'm going to have to look into that to see what the scoop is on that and the calories, and see if that's good for you or not. I'm a big fan of wasabi peas. Cook with non-tropical vegetable oils, like extra virgin olive oil. I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother used to have a tub of lard sitting next to the stove, and it's a wonder they lived as long as they did. Lighten up on the salt. You hear that one all the time. Try to stick more with herbs and spices. There are many delicious salt-free spice blends at the supermarket, so try to stay away from that stuff. What to limit? There are no completely off-limit foods when you follow the DASH diet, but there are a few categories. Again, red meats. Red meats are not especially good for you. I know those of us out there that like a good steak every once in a while. Probably not the best thing we can eat. I think it's a little harder on our digestive system. But again, having a steak every once in a while is probably not the worst thing that can happen to you. You got to maintain your mental health as well as your physical health. It's all about mental, physical, and spiritual, right? Trans fats and saturated fats, and you can look for that stuff on the packaging. All you got to do is take the time. I know it's a couple extra minutes sometimes to read the stuff at the at the supermarket, to take those packages and pour over them and see what's good for you and what's bad for you. But a couple of minutes of reading can add a couple of years onto your life. You got to look at it like that. Sweets and sugar sweetened beverages. That was the hardest thing I think I had to break, was the sugar sweetened beverages. Like I said, I was doing 3 or 4 sodas a week. I knew they were bad for me, but I didn't think I was drinking that many of them. But as soon as I cut those out, man, the weight started to come off. So you got to kind of stay away from that stuff. Sodium, again, the salt. We talked a little bit about that. Stay away from the salt. Definitely not good for you. Do I stay away from it completely? Absolutely not. I do pour some salt on stuff every once in a while. As my father would say if he were here, he'd tell you it's all things in moderation was something he taught me when I was a kid. Don't overdo anything. What are some things you can do though? If you're worried about getting full while you're eating, add an extra vegetable or fruit to your plate at every meal. Again, try to eat 2 or more meat-free meals per week. I know that's a tough one, but I do. I wouldn't say it's completely meat-free because I buy those big salads that they have at Walmart in the deli section there. They'll usually come with chicken strips in them. So I can't say that I'm completely meat-free at any meal, but at the same time, I've cut way down on it, and that's something you can do. You can control how much maybe that you have in there, even if you don't get rid of it completely. Again, focus on seasoning and herbs and spices instead of the salt. Eat handfuls of nuts for a snack when you are craving salty potato chips or pretzels. Incorporate the whole wheat flour into your baking when possible. Excuse me, I knew I was going to get all the way through without coughing at least once. Lastly, although no less important, is to incorporate daily exercise, and it doesn't need to be extreme. You can walk after lunch or dinner. Cardiovascular, mental, and yes, weight loss all come out of this. And take the stairs when possible instead of the instead of taking out the elevator. Now, when it comes to, first of all, I want to be clear that don't take my word, on anything. Do your own research, do your own thinking. Talk to your doctor. Don't start any workout routine without talking to your doctor. That's kind of important too. Make sure you can do what you can do. I mean, all of us are veterans. A lot of us are older veterans. A lot of us take medication and things like that. So you need to make sure what you're going to start or what you're going to do isn't going to impact that. But there are some things you can do, and people say, well, Rob, doing a new diet or doing an exercise program is hard. I'm not going to argue that point one bit. There are days I go to the gym and it sucks. I hate being in there. I mean, I hate it from the minute I walk through the door till the minute I go home, but I just know it's got to be done. And so here's something for you to think about. You're right. Dieting and exercise are hard. Let me tell you what else is hard. Diabetes is hard. Heart disease is hard. Having high blood pressure is hard. All those things are hard. All those things will affect you. It's a matter of you choosing your hard. Which hard do you want to go with? Do you want to go with the hard where you're being healthy and your health is good to go, where you go and your doctor says, well, don't need to do anything to you this year, see you next year? Or do you want to go into the doctor where he says, well, we're going to have to do blood work every 3 months, and we're going to have you come back in for an EKG every month, and we're going to have to have you go see the cardiologist, and while you're overseeing the cardiologist, we're going to send you over to see the oncologist because you're showing signs of markers for cancer. So you decide what your hard wants to be, okay? And, you can keep putting it off and say, well, it's, I'll get to it one day. Well, you have 2 choices on that as well. You can do it one day, or you can pick today to be day one. That's entirely up to you. Again, it's all about your own mentality. Choose positivity, okay? Choose to live a better life. Choose to be that better person. I could have continued down the path I was going back in May, and probably eventually I'd have went into the gym and pushed myself hard enough that I would have had a coronary. But I have grandchildren I want to be around as long as humanly possible for. I have kids that I want to be around as long as humanly possible for. So the work I put in today leads to that. It allows me to be, be here longer. And when I was at the mall, to circle back to that for just a second, somebody asked me, because I was telling him, hey, I'm going to finish my master's. I'm going to go get my doctorate. I'm looking 60 right in the face. He says, well, why are you doing it at such an advanced age? I was like, well, why not? Why do I get to slack off? Well, where does it say I get to, take a back seat? I still have an example to set to my grandkids and to my kids to show them that I can get out and be a top performer every day. And it's not always easy. I'm like I said, I'm on the wrong side of 55. So, physically, some days it's just not there. Mentally, some days it's just not there. But, I still get out there and give 110% of what I have today to make that happen. And so it's, it's twofold. It's number one that number one, that I keep that positivity going. But number two, I'm just willing to do the work. That's the whole thing right there. 90% of it is just showing up, folks. Just getting up off your dead butt and getting busy. And yeah, it can be a challenge sometimes to get out there and do that. You just have to be willing to get out and do the work. Uh, so please be willing to do that. I want to see you here. I want to do a lot of shows with you. I want to be able to talk to you, see you at my events. Like I said, I got one coming up next month. Go to My Warrior Ethos Facebook page, and you can check it out there, and you can get set up for it. If you have something going forward you want to see me talk about, or something that you want to, see me look into or talk about during the show, or you got questions for me personally, you want to have me answer off screen, please feel free to email me at mywarriorethosaZ@gmail.com. That's mywarriorethosaZ@gmail.com. Just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to talk to you. We can meet, we can talk through email, I can talk to you on the phone. We'll get it squared away for you. And that's pretty much all I have for this month. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much or didn't ramble on too much. I'm sorry I had some technical difficulties there. I'm still kind of getting used to the setup. This is only the second time I've used it. But I do want to give a shameless plug here to the Warrior Healing Center. And they're the ones allowing me to come in here and do this, to come in here and talk to you folks using their broadcast booth. But I want to talk about them overall for a moment. And if you haven't been to their website, please go check it out. There might be something there that you can find that might help you going forward as a veteran. If this is your first time checking out My Warrior Healing Center on Facebook, thanks for letting my show be the first thing that you check out. I really do appreciate that. It means a lot to me. If the phone number scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. If you think you need help with something, give these folks a call or just stop in here. They've got all kinds of resources to help veterans with. But if you're somebody that thinks they can offer help, that's important too. So we have to understand, as a community of veterans, we have to be willing to help each other. It's not just about a small group helping somebody. It's all of us together helping each other. And so one of the things you can do on the website is you can look into doing a financial contribution to them. I know these folks can always use a few extra funds. They have reoccurring donations you can give, or you can do a one-time lump sum thing. But even in addition to that, one thing I think that helps veterans more than anything else is your time. If you got something that you know how to do, something you can do that you think will help a veteran in crisis, like they've got all kinds of classes here that people come in here and teach on their own time. They volunteer to do so. They got and I'm probably going to say this wrong, the Qui-Gon class that gets taught on Mondays. They got a flute class. They got some art classes that go on. They got a day that they play games. They got, I think they throw a lunch like pretty much so every Friday in here. There's just a million things you can get involved in. But if you have an hour a week that you can spend, or an hour a month, whatever it is that you can maybe kick in some time to help out these folks with the veterans in crisis, or veterans just need an ear to listen to, boy, that can mean the difference between life and death. So again, go to the website, check it out, check out the Facebook page. When they have an event, stop by, just see what maybe you can do to help. And you may have some skill or something like that you think, wow, man, that doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it might mean the world to these people here. If you just come down and spend a little bit of time and find out how you can help and how you can be a part of this. It's going to take all hands on deck. We got a lot of war fighters that are coming home now, and they can use all the support they can get. So, please, if you got a minute, check everything out. Okay, like I said, that's pretty much so everything I have for this month. Probably going to step it up to 2 shows a month after the first of the year. I've kind of been approached about that, and I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work. My biggest concern is content. Instead of doing one 45-minute show, I may do 2 30-minute shows. I haven't figured it out yet. But just as a preview for next month, I am working on trying to get a guest in here for next month. I want to try to get some different guests in here from time to time, just so that way you're not seeing my ugly face and listening to my voice. So again, until next month, dream big, dare to fail, for fortune favors the bold. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving. See you in December.